welcome to the Blood Brothers podcast. We are fiercely into our second year of podcasting, and we are delighted this evening, myself and Mr. Rob Parker, to be joined by Adele Parks. Hiya.
Hi.
You want me to jump in and say hello?
This is a good time, after your name, because otherwise I could go the author of and then list 20 fiction titles and 2 non-fiction titles, and then would be, and thanks for joining us. We are, thrilled to have received a copy of both of you, and also I was absolutely delighted to see, whilst you were being fiercely professional and talking to the BBC or whoever it was, your husband was trolling Sainsbury's with a both of you mask.
Yeah, I was talking to Graham Norton and having like a real moment and being super excited about it. And he was like, I'm just checking in at the supermarkets. We both actually have the masks.
I saw that, yeah.
We got them for Just My Luck, because Just My Luck launched in the pandemic, right at the beginning of the first lockdown. And my husband bought me a mask with the branding on of Just My Luck for a joke, because clearly it wasn't particularly lucky. 20th book, 20 years. Meant to be going on tour in America and South Africa, Canada, all cancelled, But people loved them. So we've done loads of giveaways with them, and the same. And now we've got the same sort of thing for both of you. And I've got the mask. He's got the mask, and I've got a whole bunch that will be competitions over the next few weeks.
That's fantastic, because I think
awesome.
It's sort of one of those things that in the very beginning I thought, do we do Red Dog masks? Do we do? And no, come on, we're not going to need them. And then, they're a fact of life. We're going to need masks forever.
Yeah, and what this is a stunning looking book as well. When this arrived, and I'm holding up, listeners, a copy of both of you right now. It's the kind of book I don't want to touch it. I want to frame it. I just want to frame it. I want to just, and I'm a massive book nerd, Adele. So, like to have that. Oh gosh, it's so nice, and the purple and green too,
doesn't it? It's all quite grown up, and I've only gone into hardback the last couple of years, and I had hardback right at the beginning of my career, and I'm the opposite to you. You know how you're going, I don't want to touch it, I want to frame it. I'm really messy with books.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I always take off the fly cover because I know it's going to get wrecked. So that the cover comes off, and then I read, and this is going to cause outrage. I turn corners.
Excellent.
Oh, that's okay.
In books, I murder people. But the thing I'm worried about is the fact I turn corners.
People get really upset with that. Well, I don't
Very
always
much
have
so.
my handy, branded post-it notes to be able to section off the bits I want to come back to or where I am.
Well, as you mentioned it as well, when you take off the dust jacket here, it's beautiful purple and gold leaf as well. So it's actually, listeners, it's actually a bit of a collector's item, I think, this as well. This is definitely something, just another reason you should go and buy it, Well,
just a plug, it's a collector's item that you can buy in supermarkets. Which is fantastic, isn't it? Because then you can, go, oh, it looks amazing, but it costs like nearly half price. So,
I know, it's so good.
So that's not a bad thing to know.
Cast forward 50 years, people who've won a competition have the collector's item of the hardback and a mask from mid-pandemic. I mean,
and if they get cracking, it would be first edition. People who buy this week, it'll be first edition.
Right.
You heard it here first, everyone. Come on.
There's not a better sell.
I know.
I also love the fact that by next week, the first edition's finished. Come on we go. Hundreds of thousands of copies are gone.
Yeah. Oh, it's because we're. I don't even know what day it is. We're bank holiday, aren't we? We don't really have bank holidays as writers, do we? We don't really.
No, I mean, today I have written an article. I mean, I've been in the Sun as well. I have written an article, and working day, I do crack on.
Yes.
Even non-working day, I crack on. But I'm in this lucky position. I'm a writer. I've been a writer for 21 years. I love my job, and I remember my dad, when I was young, said to me, if you can make a hobby into your job, you will never work a day in your life. And he's actually more or less true. I mean, some of it feels a bit like work. We've all been there on the tricky bits, but I love it so much that I would rather get up in the morning and do some writing than not.
Yes.
is handy considering I'm doing a book a year.
I think there's one of those things that you could go and work in an office, but you're not allowed to kill those people. Whereas when you're writing, everybody that's in your little room that you're working with, you're allowed to kill.
That's anything I like with them. I'm quite cruel to this lot. Should I give you a little précis?
Yes, please.
Because it's a really tricky one to talk about. Everyone keeps saying to me in interviews, will you talk about it? Because I don't want to give anything away.
No, because you can't.
So without giving anything away, because it is a real twisty, turny book. And I've done something I think a little bit unusual, in so much the first reveal comes about a third of the way through the book. And it will make you think that the entire first third was just like, what have I read? Is that true? Can I trust any of it? So this thing happens, which obviously I'm not allowed to talk to you about, but it is absolutely the whole point of the book. So I have to talk to you about the book without telling you the point of the book, which is be fun. So there's two women. Lee, she's early 40s, stepmom to 2 kids, management consultant, married to a landscape gardener. They're fine. But I think anyone who's in their 40s with a couple of kids and a couple of jobs understands that kind of fine. She's exhausted. You know, her life is, have the kids got the homework? Is my laptop charged? She's always rushing out to work. But they're very content. They're fine. And then we meet Kai, who, while she only lives, they both live in London, whilst Kai only lives a couple of miles away from Lee, they might as well be light years away, because Kai is married to slightly younger, very handsome investment banker. They live in a penthouse. They have these dinner parties, and I researched these, and these apparently happen, where cooks come in to cook the dinner party, and their guests are kind of, you know, the local MPs and artists and all this kind of thing. Very different.
Yeah, I've heard of these. I've never been invited, strangely.
Nor me. Oversight on their part, not inviting any of the 3 of us, frankly.
Exactly.
But both of these women go missing in the same week, and actually they shouldn't really be connected, because they're so different as 2 women. But the DC in charge of the case is convinced at a gut level that they are connected. And so the first third of the book is working out what that connection is. And then, of course, the rest of the book is, well, where are they? What did they either run from or possibly towards, or were they taken? And if they were taken, who took them? And
I love that in this sort of controlled plot device where you go, I know time's pressing, these women are missing, but wait, we've got some other shit to sort out first.
Yeah.
I love it. You're like, no, because they're champing at the bit, waiting for the right. When are we going to chase down what's happened?
Yeah, like, oh no, not yet. I'm going to tell you something else. And also, it is funny you saying about time pressing, because time pressing is very much a part of this book, because I set it. I planned it. I mean, I'll tell you if you're interested about the whole how I think about books a year in advance. But I planned this way in advance, but just started to write it when the first lockdown happened. And I was about at that point, funny enough, a third of the way in. And I had it all plotted. And then I suddenly thought, why wouldn't they find this out? There's a particular thing. And I was like, why wouldn't the 2 families find this out? And then lockdown happened. I was like, because we're locked down.
Yeah.
Then
nobody's allowed anywhere.
Yeah. So. No one's allowed to go anywhere. So you can't investigate in the same way. So I actually set it the week before we all went into lockdown 1, which I think has been really interesting, because it's not a book about lockdown. I don't think any of us are quite ready to read that or think about that right now. But it was interesting talking to the police about police procedure just before lockdown, because their priorities changed. They did not know we were all going to bake for our neighbours and set up WhatsApp groups. They thought we were going to
be looting the streets.
Yeah, they did. Absolutely, Sean. They thought we were going to be looting and rioting, or they at least had to consider that possibility.
Everybody in JD Sports putting down their hatches again, going, not the trainers, no. Not the looting.
Exactly. That is good. It was a really helpful plot device, because it meant I made the book happen in a week. Because I wanted before lockdown. I couldn't cope with writing about a book about lockdown. But yeah, so it was fun.
Because when I read it in the advanced information sheet that came with it, you're just like, God, it's brilliant because it reminds us as authors that we've been locked down for a year now, and a book can turn around and be coming out in a year. That's fine.
Yes.
But also, we started this podcast at the beginning of that first lockdown. And I had COVID at the time we were doing it, and we spent a lot of time talking to our first several guests, going, "Well, nobody wants to write about this." No, and you have exactly the same feeling. You're like, right, let's get it out the way before the lockdown thing happens, because thereafter it becomes impossible to investigate anything, do anything, because everything goes into a sort of
still. Everybody's so still. Hasn't it been really boring being so still? But
it's been really waistline expanding being so still.
Yes, yeah.
That's one I've written quite a lot though, because the one I'm nearly finished that's for next year, and I won't really talk about that one, but all I would say about it is casually everybody has to have a mask all the time. You know, like when they're leaving the house, it used to be kind of wallet and keys, and now it's wallet, keys, and mask.
It is, isn't it? It is.
Yeah.
That leads me on to like I adored while reading this, Adele, your deconstruction of the minutiae of just being alive. You know, like and being in this country at this sort of around this place in time. You know, it was just so true to life for me that and it made me look at things like, oh my God, I am like that. Oh, I do that. Or, oh no, and you end up looking at yourself in a funny way. And certainly, it's funny you mentioned, Sean, the advanced information sheet, because I try not to look at them. I look at them so I know
always
who to say
do, because I've got my publisher's hat on as well.
You do, you see. I always look to see, right, who do I need to thank? Who do I right name at the bottom? There we go. Yeah, I'll make sure they get a thank you. And then I chuck it because I don't want to know. So first thing I did when I picked up both of you was the first line is a date line, isn't it? And it's 17th of March 2020, and in my head I'm going, whoa,
no, she hasn't.
Whoa, yeah. Immediately I was like, wow,
she's gone there. She's done a lockdown book.
Yeah. And that first chapter was absolutely sensational as well, because I'm terrible with the spoiler stuff, Adele. I'm awful with it, but I always feel like I can confidently talk about the first chapter.
You can.
That's good. Thank God. Because the little sheet under the door, the typewriter clacking, scared the hell out of me. So under my skin, the noise is, you could just picture it. It's amazing.
Yeah, we should tell you, listen, so there is somebody, isn't there? She's locked up. I don't know which one of the two women it is, but she's locked up, and she's kind of coming around, and she's so normal. I mean, I'm so touched that you think I've got our world, because that is what we're right for, isn't it? To try and make connections, to kind of see things clearly. And so she's kind of coming round thinking, first thought, oh, I'm really hungover, because why else would I be lying on the floor? Yeah. You know, which I don't think any of us would think, oh, I might have been abducted, which is a possibility. She might have been.
You managed to deconstruct it so well, because it was the stuff like, I can smell sick. Oh yes, does that mean I was, you know, like, and we've all been there, like, oh dear, I can smell sick? Is it mine? Oh, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then this sheet comes under the door, but I think the end of the first chapter is quite telling, because the sheet comes through the door, and the person who presumably has abducted her insists, I'm not the villain here. And I think hopefully by chapter 1, you're kind of going, well, who the feck is then?
Yeah. What?
If you're not, you're the one with the key.
All I can think of as well is, because I know that it's going to be national lockdown in a matter of days, like, we need a resolution for this person really quickly. That kind of thing.
No, that's. I mean, it's a very time-specific ticking clock that we are all. And I think it's sort of one of those things that's in years to come, and I don't want to relegate this book to that place, but in years to come on A-level syllabi, that will be one of the things of social historical context.
Oh my God, I'd love that. Can I say it's no problem to me if they want to stick it on an A-level syllabus.
No, but do you know, as somebody who I adored A-level English, and I adored my two teachers, but the biggest, most intellectual arguments I ever had with them was, did the writer really mean all of this shit that we're having to deconstruct in an essay, or have you just made us study it? You know, like.
I used to be terrible. I got into so much trouble with my A-level English. So I studied Mansfield Park by Jane Austen as one of my texts. And her name's Fanny. And I was just like, like her. And my teacher's going, why'd you say that? I was going, you wouldn't call her Fanny if you liked her, would you? And I just couldn't get past it. And they were like, you are really missing the point of this entire A-level Parksy. I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm just saying that don't. No. So when they're all the way along, they're going, oh, Fanny is the most virtuous, amazing character. I was like, no, it's an ironic twist. And I didn't really believe that. I was just a bullshit 17-year-old having a
Jesus, no, I didn't have those kind of arguments. I don't think my aged English teacher would have brooked me actually reading the word out loud. We did Northanger Abbey. We were fine. There were none of them in that.
We had a guy who was, I just adored him, but he managed to draw the comparisons between Chaucer and Dr. Dre in a lyrical sense.
Oh,
and that, yeah, like how similar themes existed across 500 years.
He's trying to get you to read the Chaucer because that.
Well, he managed it. Yeah.
My A-level English teacher was also my headmaster. You know how like they all double up and do loads of jobs.
Yeah.
And he's actually fabulous. He turns up to all my events.
Oh, that's so cool.
His time going, I taught her English. I taught her everything she knows.
Oh,
Mr. Oliver, and he was really good. And I had Ms. Maguire when I was about 13. And she was a phenomenal teacher. She sort of really, looking back, definitely went off syllabus, even if there was a syllabus, and told us all about things like snuff movies. And, like she should not have been telling 13-year-olds this stuff. But we loved her.
I knew her as Viv. I don't remember what her surname was, which is terrible for a teacher. Shows exactly where the relationship was. She did my GCSEs and my A-levels. And I remember her sitting there in our A-level year. We were doing Paradise Lost, books 4 and whatever. And she was just obsessed with Satan and how sexy he was and everything else. And then we got onto the metaphysical poets and we were doing Donne at the time. And I remember she kicked off her shoes, flowing skirts. She was dancing around. She was just like, I would fuck him right now if he was alive. Like, I can't write this in my essay, Viv. I mean, this has got nothing to do with using a strong consonant at the beginning of your
innocent
railing
brain,
of God
has been.
You think that was maybe he was just flipping into the Chaucer Anglo-Saxon language.
Possibly, yes,
I'm sure she was.
A few of those, Anglo-Saxon words.
Yes, yeah.
She was just, she was very passionate. And
Sean, we are. Oh, sorry, Sean. We are talking to a doctor here, after all, aren't we?
A doctor of letters.
We are, aren't we? Yes.
Yeah, but should I put you all back at your ease? It was gifted to me. I did not have to work for it.
No, I think that's exactly the kind of doctorate I'm aiming for. So
the only kind of doctorate I'm going to get. Have you ever found yourself going, yes, I'm a doctor, whenever they call that out?
My dad addresses everything to Dr. Parks.
Oh,
bless him, he does. And he will talk about maybe Dr. Parks. And I am still always slightly embarrassed that it was gifted to me, but it was such an honor that it was gifted to me.
Oh, you must know.
I kept wandering around going, well, it's not like all these kids that have actually worked for their degree. And in the end, the chancellor was saying to me, well, just hold it in. Just
You've done a different kind of work. It's fine. It's fine.
But
and to be fair, you've used a lot more letters over 20 years of novels than those students have.
My husband's quite into like adding up how many millions of words I might have written.
Oh, wow.
I know, he's quite obsessed about it because most books are about 110,000 words.
Wow.
He sees how many times I rewrite things. And sort of all in all, and he'll sort of sometimes burst in the room and go, you're probably on 3.5 million words. I'm like, I don't know what to say to it. I'm just
okay, thanks.
I just
has he got an algorithm for how many of them you get to keep?
Yes, I know.
Probably, but I don't know about it.
Yeah. It's really hard. It's the opposite way with the kids, where you're just like, oh, I'm writing this book. Well, how many words have you done today? Oh, I did 2,000. It was a good day. It was a good day. I did 2,000. Wow, how many is that? And then you show them that we've got up to 30,000. And they're like, have you not finished yet? Then It looks really big.
I showed the kids the progress bar. I showed the kids the progress bar on Scrivener today, and then they said, like, so where does it need to go to the end? And said, well, when do you think that might be? And I'm like, I hope August. And they went, August. Oh, we won't see you at all this summer.
I hate writing through the summer. I always try and get my books finished by end of June.
Well,
this is wise on the book a year, the strategy.
Yeah,
this is very wise.
Book a year, get them done by June, July and August. I think about the plot for the next one, which is also known as sunbathing. I mean, it's on the way you look at it. But yeah,
I think plotting can be best done in a sunny environment with a cocktail.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers to that. She says, reaching for hers.
Cheers. So is that, I mean, our listeners do love a bit of process and the journey and stuff like that, Adele. So is that the sort of the yearly map for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm joking about it, but genuinely, I do believe the plotting and the character investigation is the most important part of writing for me now, because this thing that I've mentioned, a book a year, people are expecting it. I'm expecting to do it. It is expected of me, end of. So we've got to get it sorted. So the process, obviously, in my debut was like, oh, I'll randomly write some words for an infinite amount of time. And then I'll throw them out. I'll have a confidence crisis. I'll cry a lot. I might rescue some, and then I'll pop them all back together again and see if it works. And that worked for a couple of years. That was all right. But once it became my, like full on day job and really had to get in a rhythm, and I'm 21 books, I've got a 20-year-old child. So, and once I'm kind of fitting a child in with working, which I have had to all the way along, I started to work out I needed a process. And I have found that if I spend 2 to 3 months on really carefully plotting, and yes, some of it might be just in my head, but a lot of it is also on paper, going down what I think are plot routes, only to find that they're blind alleys, and that doesn't work, is much quicker on paper than if you had written 20,000 words and then gone, that actually doesn't work. So I really, really, investigate and interrogate actually that plot and my characters, because once I have a plot, I think, right, who is the worst person this could happen to? Who would be the most vulnerable, or who would be what's the outlier that would suffer the most if I do this to them? Because that's the cruel mind I have.
But that's fascinating because so it means your plot trigger comes first, the what if. And then characters like, now who can I punish?
Yes. And then when I get a character, I literally have a process that I've come up with over the years, that I realize people often say the really lovely thing that you've said, Rob, that you really felt, you believed that I'd nailed the minutiae and you were there. And how I do that is I interview my characters. So I have a whole set of questions. There's at least 50, there might be more. And I won't ask them all 50 of them. And there's some of them that are obvious, like, gender, age, and marital status, have they got kids? But then they get a bit more specific. So it might be, who's your favorite sibling? Were you your parents' favorite child? What is your biggest secret? What was your first kiss like? What is the one thing no one in this world knows about you? The one thing you've kept quiet. And there's a whole list of questions, and some of them are a bit fun. They're like, what birth sign are you? Which means absolutely nothing if you're an Aries, but if you're an Aquarius, that really matters. And so I'm literally building these characters bit by bit like that. And then I find then it probably takes me about 6 months to write the book, 5 to 6 months, because I shouldn't, if I have investigated plot strongly and character strongly, I shouldn't run into any problems. There shouldn't be any curveballs. Except, can I say, there sometimes is. Just so I
remember. But there always is. There's somebody who turns up and goes, no, I don't want to be there, actually.
Yeah, I don't want to be there. Or you find I find viewpoint, because my books are incredibly twisty-turny and dependent on lots of reveals and rug pulls and asking readers to re-look at something that they think they knew. And the whole unreliable narrator and all of that. It does mean I quite often get fairly far in and then think, no, because although she does know that, she's not letting on she knows that. So we need somebody else to reveal that.
She can't just walk in with a suitcase of exposition and go, ta-da!
This is what I prepared earlier. This is what Adele's really thinking, but doesn't want you to know yet.
Yeah.
So actually, with my book, last year's book, Just My Luck, I got as far as 80,000 words and then realized it needed rewriting.
Oh shit, that's a deep way in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the interesting things because I write, but the other half of my working day is publishing, and of the submissions coming through. Sorry, dog's epilepsy tablets alarm going off.
Yoga class. I was like, book the class.
No, my dog has epilepsy. He has to have tablets at 8:30. I think it's fine. My girlfriend will do it, but the alarm still goes off. Look, shut up! It's 8 o'clock. But what was I talking about? Something exciting before epilepsy.
You write and
you're a publisher.
Oh yes, I was all right in publishing, and then within the submissions that come through, and even with writers who you go, no, I love the story, I love, send me the full manuscript. The bit where they get to exactly that, where you're like, oh, I've foundered at 80,000 words. And instead of having the confidence to go back and going, right, we need to rewrite this, or you just like, we just slip into a completely different narrative. And you're like, all right, unpick it, take it apart, put it back together. It's all still there. It's just in the wrong order.
That's exactly what I had to do with just my luck. And I introduced, well, I didn't introduce, the character's already there, but I gave another character a voice, a teenager. And I love writing from a teenager's point of view anyway, because it gives me an excuse to talk to my son, first of all, which is great. And he has to talk to me if I say things like, this is for research and I pay the mortgage, so talk to me.
Sit down. You don't have to eat your tea. It'll be fine.
But yeah, I do like writing teenagers. And anyway, that's what happened. Both of you, because we were locked down, I found it a lot oddly, and I know this is very divisive and some writers feel very differently, but for me, I was really focused. It was the thing that kept me going. I realized that the whole world was falling apart and life was horrific, and every time you put the news on, there was only bad news. So all I did was escape into the world I was making up that I could still control. And I wrote faster than I've ever written before, and possibly more confidently. I mean, still a really twisty turny plot, but I just knew that I'd get through it and just concentrated on doing that. So that one I didn't have to kick out a horrible amount of work.
And I think, I mean, it's interesting, that whole, like, how we focused or didn't focus within the lockdowns as they came and rolled. And I think for anybody who's worked at home technically or alone full time, this whole lockdown working from home thing is just like, what are you all bitching about? It's fine, just get on with it. And you forget that people have to acclimatize themselves to not dicking around all day.
Yeah, and also because I've done it now, I have done it for so long, I'm actually the other end of the spectrum, because whilst I'm very, very happy to work from home and get my work done, that was completely dependent on, once I had written my 1,000 to 2,000 words a day, I'm out the door, going to go and see someone, going to go and talk to someone, going to go and sit in a bus queue where I would hear a conversation and think, oh, that's funny, I'll need to write that down. Sit in a cafe, get some of that. Go and be with some police people to get a bit of research and get a bit of the language. All of that went. Yeah. And now I'm laughing when people are going, oh, I think we could flexi work for the rest of our lives. I'm like, you regret it when you... Yeah, I'm like, when you don't know what box set to watch because you've missed your water cooler moments, you regret it. But,
you just find yourself going, no, you can't. Let me tell you. There you go.
I can understand why people are going, because in our industry, in publishing, a lot of publishers are saying, I want to go back 2 days or 3 days a week, and I don't want to go back more. And you can kind of understand it, because part of them are thinking, well, I get a lot more work done because I'll have a lot less interruptions. But I think a lot is lost for all of us as a community. I mean,
definitely.
Especially on the creative side. I mean, regardless of, the fact that it's very sort of isolated role, being the writer and whatever. As you say, it's just that getting out and seeing human interaction, seeing life, seeing things going on that triggers things, little snippets of conversation, everything that just stores into your brain, the way people move, the way people interact. And if you've done it for long enough, of course you can draw on stuff that you've seen before, but if it's not recharged, it's really hard to find fresh. You'll start
like,
getting other people's voices marrying with the ones that you've written before, and you're like,
You mentioned there, Adele, about your at a bus stop you might hear a bit of conversation or something like that. Is that like, because you're observationally, these books of your work is so astute observationally, and how, you know, like, is that so? Is there a bit of people watching going on? I'm terrible for it. But so yeah, a lot. Yeah.
That's such a. It's a really weird thing being a writer, isn't it? Because you're always on the outside. That's your whole job, to observe and record. But you have to be genuinely empathetic, because you're also kind of imagining what's going on. And people are often asking me, oh, you know, do you put your friends and family in your books? And I'm like, first of all, I don't have that many friends and family.
Not anymore, because they're all dead.
And I would have far fewer. Exactly, I would have far fewer if I put them in my books. Because, you know, each book is, you know, 21 books. There might be like 6 lead people in that. That's a lot of people. But I really do enjoy meeting people for a short length of time, and then kind of giving them a backstory. Because the other thing with real friends and family, they're inconveniently in the middle of their messy lives.
Yeah.
They do not serve up their lives with a decent beginning, middle, and end.
Also, quite a few of them don't have
that at all.
But quite a few of them don't have many redeeming characteristics, which readers won't like.
All of them are unreliable narrators. So, you know,
yes, absolutely.
That's the point, you know. I do need that sort of overhearing things or brief encounters, you know, like, I don't know, my parents live up in Teesside and I live down in Surrey. So, you know, train journeys or whatever, there'll be some character and you just think, how did you end up being that person? What's it like to be inside your skin? And it's a really fun way of passing time, actually.
I just love it. I can, as I know a lot of people think, you know, it's a terrible thing to go and sit on your own and drink in a bar. But I happily will barfly for a couple of pints just to absorb. So if I'm ever away at a conference or away between meetings or whatever, I'll go and sit in a bar, order a pint, sit down and just listen and absorb. And it's both character, but also time and place. And you know, that the environment that you're in, which for me, I was brought up in South Africa and then South Wales. So everything's alien everywhere. And wherever you sit, you're just sort of absorbing. Here's a bunch of locals, and then they're clashing with a bunch of, you know, people coming in for one pint only. And I just find it fascinating to see how people work and how much they'll communicate. And
exactly, and it is that multiple skill, isn't it? That you're sitting back, but you're already trying to process it through, thinking, right, on the paper, how does this make the connection? How do I get people like Rob saying, yeah, that felt like I was there, and and that's the most exciting thing. And I think that's certainly that's why all of us write, to make connections, to feel less alone in the world, whilst we're terrifying people and making them feel incredibly alone.
That's
so you know, it's a mix, and we're and that is writers for you, isn't it? So we want to observe but be in the center of it. Somebody asked me the other day, why do you write? And I was like, oh, I love being center of stage, and I hate it. You're like, oh, that's a charisma, Adele. Thanks for that.
But it's exactly why you're a writer and not an actress. It's exactly why you write, because you can create the worlds and you can bring it all to life in everybody's minds, but you don't have to be the one going, ta-da!
Exactly. Yeah,
I can ta-da it if you read it through the
being an actress. I think there's quite a lot of stuff that held me back from being an actress.
I think that was the biggest adjustment I had to make when lockdown hit, was that I couldn't write in the pub anymore, because I found sitting in a pub, like my local pub, they had a table they used to call my office, and they'd say, your office is free, Rob, and then I could go and sit down, and I worked out I'd written an inordinate amount of words in there, but it wasn't always just mucking around at all. It was like literally writing, but I found it really comfortable to be around the kind of thing and people, and it inspired me just being near people.
See, because I can't write in that noise.
Really?
But I can. I mean, you can hear my dogs barking in the background now. I can write in that bastard noise. But I can't write in. I can't write in the environment. I have to sit in the environment, absorb it, and then I have to go back.
I do
But I can write with music going.
I do both. I write most of my words at my office, in my office, which is a converted bedroom. But that's what I missed last year. Going out, sitting in a bar or sitting in a cafe and just thinking, oh, this is the music that's playing. That's how the light's working on the back of the bar, on the optics or whatever. You know, I just like a bit of that.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm also a 2 pints writer as well, like a pool player. I think I'm great when I've had 2 beers. And it's the same with writing. It's flying out of me now.
Yeah, and it will be later.
Yeah.
Actually, I think being a bit relaxed does help the
Definitely.
process. And whatever that is, you know, actually I had you down, Rob, as somebody who went to yoga before they started writing.
Oh my God, no! 2 cans of Guinness and he's anyone.
Yeah, no, seriously. Oh dear, yeah. I box in the mornings and write in the afternoons. So
and
yeah, so
through
and then yeah, that so the boxing outweighs the. Although I went into funnily enough, on the first date of the first chapter of this, Adele, of both of you, I was a middleweight, and I think I'm coming out. I'm just nudging heavyweight now. So yeah, so it's not been the what did you say before, Sean? Waistlines, yeah.
Waistlines.
Expanding waistlines of lockdown, yeah.
Hey,
have
you category for it?
Oh no, I'm super happy. Yeah. It's funny how we've all had to adjust, not just socially, but personally as well, like the little personal adjustments to make things work. Like I didn't realize just how mad working at home had made me as a human being, like arguing with myself about, like trying out dialogue with myself and arguing it through. Yes. And my wife thinking, are you having an absolute breakdown? Are you all right? Yes. And it's just, I'm trying out dialogue or something like that. And I didn't realize I was doing
people haven't been priprivileged to hear
yeah, they've never seen this maniac behavior before.
Yeah, no, but it's actually a good process. And I move it's when it's going on in my head, but it's a character dialogue. I might be sort of moving my lips and like, oh.
What you couldn't see, listeners, with some incredible facial expressions there from
it was like somebody had tasered a Muppet.
I do. I look like Kermit. That's so bad. Like I'm blushing now. Anyway, point is, I chatter on to myself all the time. And now Jim will kind of wait for a bit and then he'll go, are you ready to talk to me? And I'm like, yeah, what? Because, you know, in my head, I'm in my other world. And you know, it is hard, isn't it? Because you might have the world you're promoting, which is obviously for at the moment, it's both of you, the world you're writing, the world you might think about next writing, and the actual world you live in. No wonder Batty.
Yeah.
It has to be saying.
And then, you know, in old days, on the list of reasons you'd be put into Bedlam,
yes,
that is most definitely one of them. Lives in 4 worlds at a time.
They'd have gone, woman, get her in.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I mean,
is she speaking to herself? Right, that's it. Stick her in a barrel full of nails. Go on, quick.
Woman equals lunacy.
Oh, it's horrendous.
Those were the days, eh?
Yeah, no, the giddy days of the Bedlam.
Does that? So, do you? I mean, I get the impression you really fall into the world you create as well, then, Adele.
I do, and I really do care for the characters, and it's weird because as you'll know when you read them that, you know, I write about a lot of unlikable people, and I think we'll all agree I'm a pretty smiley, nice human being in person, but I go dark. I just do. And I don't know if that's because I would love to be dark if I hadn't had such a good girl upbringing that, you know, that I wasn't allowed to express my inner evil. I don't know. But I really, really enjoy writing these outliers. And I have a theory why we enjoy reading about them. And I think the vast majority of us are pretty nice people. Most people, you know, look at us through. We've never met each other before, but we're having a real laugh. You know, you bounce on, you want it to work. And I think that's
because we all kill people in our books.
Well, actually, it probably is, because nobody wants to explore what they're very familiar with.
Yeah.
So we want to explore things we're not familiar with, which I think are the outliers, the people that do extreme things, and you know, whether it's the people that have abducted Kai or Lee, or whether it's whatever has got Kai or Lee into this kind of trouble in the first place, that why have they been abducted, or what are they running away from, or what are they running towards? All of those things probably don't happen to the vast majority of us, but we somehow like scaring ourselves, don't we?
We do. We like that soft,
We
sort of
do.
safe flirtation with darkness.
I
It's like
think
why we like horror movies, isn't it? Like,
or when we're kids, theme park rides.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think you're right, it's a safe flirtation because you know that it is going to be resolved somehow. Maybe in many deaths, who knows? But you know, maybe in the right people being saved, maybe the not. You know, but there's going to be a resolve. Where in real life, we don't get many resolves on many things.
But I think also
so
there's
true.
like
I
for
never
me
thought about
there's you know that idea of the Rorschach ink blots where you have to make, your brain has to make sense of something, and when you confronted with something so not nonsensical in a comic way, but in an incomprehensible way of how somebody could do something so dark or something so hideous or something so tragic. And you know, a lot of people who know me, who read my books, go, what is wrong with you? Why do you write that stuff? Is that in your... You're like, no, but I'm just fascinated in what pushes a psyche to the point where that's okay, or that's even a possibility, or that's a rational response to normal life, because we all live a normal life, and yet everybody's normal life is very... And I'm fascinated by what makes people go there when the rest of us sit here.
It's because you say what makes people, because I'm not particularly interested in writing about psychos. So I'm not interested in writing about people that just don't have a moral tussle with what they're doing. If it's just fine for them, you know, like American Psycho. I mean, it's worth reading just for like going, what?
Really?
But it's kind of...
Is that an official quote from Adele Parks? Is that...
Just on the book. What?
What? But he's so extreme. He's so extreme. Yeah. I like the people that you think, gosh, that was me, and then she stopped being me, or he was my husband, and then he stopped being the person that I would think could be my husband. Because actually, in real life, murders and things very rarely happen. In terms of, oh, I'm the kind of person that I've grown up all my life thinking one day I want to become a murderer. They are very rare.
The old serial killer dream. Yeah.
They are very rare. I mean, they're interesting again to write about, but they're very rare. But the real murderers tend to be sort of crimes of passion, for want of
people pushed.
People pushed, yeah.
I remember sitting. I was at work. I mean, this is, it's no secret. It was all over the news. But I was at work. My boss was working in a telly production company, and we all had TVs on our desk. And we were working late one evening. My line manager was sitting opposite me, and she had her telly on, and she was suddenly she went ashen. And I was like, "You okay?" And she said, "Yeah, that's my aunt and uncle's house." She's watching Sky News over in Ireland, and it turned out that her aunt had finally reached breaking point, had hammered her uncle to death.
Goodness me!
And the first she found out about it was on the news. The police were live broadcasting.
Oh my god!
And she was distraught. She was like, "There was two kiddies." And half of you she'd been a shit boss anyway, so but. So half of me was like, this is a fucking great story, but also the other half of me was like, can you imagine, this is your aunt and uncle, this is your family, this is let's go around to Auntie Sally's, whatever, and we'd go and have I don't remember what her name was, but she'd just lost it. She'd got to the point where he had been that abusive and that hideous and that whatever, that she'd gone to the shed, got a hammer, come back and taken his life. And then the police were all there, and it was all on the helicopters, and she was
actually that means nobody in the family is normal again.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. You never get normality again. Yeah.
Not that any of us are normal in the first place, but it's never straightforward.
No, and I mean, she sat there afterwards, and what was interesting is you sort of suddenly get an insight into the ripples rather than the incident. And she sort of sat there afterwards and went, well, we always knew there was abuse going on. We always knew. And you're like, did nobody do anything? Well, so no, that's part of the culture, and the men are the men, and the thing, and this is how our family's always been. And you're like, and now she's just turned around and leathered him with a hammer, and that's it. And she's in prison. He's dead. The kids are in social care, and the whole thing's gone to crap. And you're like, and that's like right there in your.
And also, you see, going back to books, that's deeply unsatisfying on so many levels.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, it's so cruel. It's just hideous. Where if that was a book, she might get away with it if he really deserved it, or
she wouldn't get away with it. But she had done something to provoke it.
Or she's done something to kind of, there would be more, and we would feel
that's definitely it, isn't it?
We would feel it was more controlled.
But that's the point. It's like we need to. I can't remember who said the quote originally, but the difference between fiction and non-fiction is that fiction needs to make sense. And if it happens in real life, you just go, oh, well, if it happened, so blah.
Yeah.
And you're like, but it's not satisfactory. We don't know why, we don't know this.
But it's interesting to, as a reader, to look at flawed characters, isn't it, though? And it's interesting to have. I quite like it when I'm pulled along and I don't know how I'm going to be. It's the author is asking questions of me as to whether I can root for this person or I can go along with this. And I feel sometimes there's a little dance between author and reader of where you push the other a little bit, don't you? A little bit, even though it's separated by months and months of the word being written on the page.
No, but that's exactly what. I mean, that's exactly what I hope to do. When I write these characters, I'm asking them to do things that I think most of us find unacceptable. And then I'm asking myself to make it somehow acceptable. And then, to sell it. And I don't mean sell the book. I mean, sell the story to the reader that finds themselves going, oh my God, I can't believe myself. Because I am going along with an immoral person, or I am rooting for the wrong person.
But you just give it that deniable plausibility, don't you?
It's so interesting.
I recently reread Adrian McKinty's The Chain, and have you read that one, Adele?
I haven't. I'm nodding because my husband's read it, but
really, it's the central question won't spoil anything for anybody. But it was it's that age-old sort of thing of like what the what if kind of thing, and it's your child has been kidnapped, and if you want your child to be released, you've got to kidnap another child. And simply put like that, I asked myself, like, what would I do? I'm like, well, I'm going kidnapping a kid.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, what? And just as quickly as that, I've unlocked like a huge existential dread in my own head. And isn't that amazing? That's what great fiction should do, is challenge you as a person, challenge you as a reader. I don't want to coast when I'm reading, like and certainly there are loads of books and genres out there that you can and it's so right. It's like there's a movie for every occasion, or a song for every occasion. There's a book for every occasion, a book for every reader. But I like to be challenged, and certainly on a human level and a personal level. And to tie this neatly back in, I got all of that with both of you, which is out now.
I mean, for me, it's a long-running theme that you're massively able to do, which is to take the personal, the family, relationships, whether that be marital relationships, parent-teen relationships, family relationships, mother-daughter relationship. It's just you're able to observe those and produce them in a way that we go plausible deniability. I see where we're going here, and it's a real skill, because it requires, as we were talking about before, it requires empathy. But empathy with the darkness that people don't want to expose in themselves. And to see where that goes, and to see where we push ourselves.
I talk about this book and say, because we're finding it really hard to actually talk about this book because of the big.
Yeah, we can't.
Yes, we're doing a really good job here, though.
This book is very much about sort of wanting something you can't have, literally wanting the impossible. And actually most crimes are about wanting the impossible, but this one genuinely is. And it's about jealousy, and the grass is always greener, and friendships and relationships, and when they go toxic. And so a lot of themes that I have touched on before, but I think this is the first time I've done it. Well, this is definitely the first time I've done it this way, but I actually think it's the first time anyone has, in our genre, has written this theme, which is really, really sort of, that might be overbold, and you're going to find me 5 more examples, but I think it is good.
You just wait for somebody to get.
But I can't tell you what the theme is. You have to read
And you're
it.
like, no, that's fucking
But it's
nothing
great,
like
'cause all
it.
these
You haven't
people
read it.
read the book. Yeah, it's going to be great. Though. All these people have to read the book to prove that I'm wrong and that other people have read it.
Exactly.
Before. But
I don't think you'll find another writer who's tackled it quite the same.
Yeah, that's what I will come back with. But somebody said, "Well, go on, give me a hint." In the end, I was like, "Well, it's domestic ambition," and they were like, "What does that mean?" I went, "I don't know. I'm trying to jazz up adultery." So
can you imagine if domestic ambition suddenly appeared on a divorce writ?
I know. It sounds like a new romantic band.
Domestic ambition.
I know. I want someone to divorce someone because of domestic ambition now. I'm just
yeah.
cruel. I was that.
You mentioned there, very Adele, about how, like doing something that hasn't been done before. There is staggering longevity to what you've been doing, and 20 years speaks for itself. But are you conscious of like constantly pushing that envelope and coming up with something new and constantly? Because
I have changed genre 3 times.
I love that.
No, the genre has changed around you.
Yes.
It's quite interesting. When we were kids, you'd do like, I don't know, we had to, every Tuesday afternoon, you'd sit and do your English with the teacher would set you something. And one week it might be, imagine you're outer space. The next week it would be, imagine you're a cowboy. And the next week it would be, imagine you're a flamingo. Why did you get pink feathers? And I love that.
Yeah.
We don't let adults do that. We say, well, what are you gonna write? What kind of genre are you gonna write? So I would say my first sort of a lot, I would say I started off in sort of, relationship books. They always had a twist. They always had unlikable heroines, just saying. So there was a bit oh dear. There was always just a bit of a pill to swallow, but there was that. And I got so bored of being told it was chick lit or asked, well, do you think it's chick lit? And I'm like, have you read them? Because clearly no. And I remember having
the word chick out of any of this.
Anything.
Yeah.
And then I would sort of say, what has to be in chick lit? And they're like, oh, a single girl. I've never written about a single woman. Never written that.
Do you not just find yourself going, there were no hens? I don't understand.
I have said things like that. And I have
really?
Said things like, I'm 40, at the time I was 40, I'm 52 now, but at the time I was going, I'm 40. Do I look like a chick? Just get over it. So all of that, you kind of get through all of that. And in the end, I thought, I'm never going to shake this. So I then wrote 2 historical novels set in World War I, which I felt kind of,
definitely not chick lit.
There's thousands slaughtered before page 6. Do you know what I mean? There's no way this is chick lit. 150,000 before breakfast or whatever it was, And then I finished those novels and I really enjoyed it. And those are the 2 stories I had, but I didn't really think of myself as a historical novelist. And I wanted to get back to contemporary, which is what I enjoy the most. And then I just thought, I can't go back to anything at all light because I have just been on battlefields. I have seen what is really life and death and what people are prepared to die for or have to die for. And that's when, so this is sort of 6 books ago, that's when I started writing thrillers. And I've loved writing thrillers. You can call them domestic noirs or thrillers, but I've loved it because it has opened up the market. Nobody ever says chick lit. I get men reading my books. It's just, it's a lot more, it's just a lot wider. But also, I think there's a really exciting intellectual challenge of doing any kind of thriller because of this reveal and the sleight of hand. There is a crafting to it where, no disrespect to relationship books, because they're also, if you're trying to get feasible characters, is still a thing in a relationship book, but there is kind of a relationship, it goes wrong, it gets better again, or it goes wrong and you've grown because of it. There's not much more than that. Where with thrillers, there's a real question about what are we? Who are we? Yes. Why are humans different to every other mammal ever? why have we got language? Why have we got language? And then why do we choose to lie?
I mean, that's so good, Adele. You can't drop truth bombs like that on us right now. That's what a phrase that is.
Not right at the end of a podcast.
I know. I'm going to be lying awake at night. Like, why do we have language and why do we choose to lie? Like, I'm not going to sleep at all. Like, oh my word.
Okay, we'll do that next year.
I think that's what makes for me. There's no other. I can do mystery and thriller, and I couldn't as a screenwriter, and I can't as a novel writer contemplate anything else, because what I want to know is what makes people tick and what makes them do despicable things, and that is and it is basically that. Why do we have language? Why do we lie?
Yeah.
If you've been given a gift of something beautiful, why do you then abuse it to deceive your others? And it's all about power, and it's all about control, and it's all about personal space, and it's all about all of those things.
Domestic ambition.
Yes, domestic
I'm getting
ambition.
all this down now. The doctor is in session.
The third book in Rob's 30-mile trilogy is going to take a turn for the domestic ambition.
I just want to ask that, like, yes. I am dumbfounded. That's all I'm going to be thinking about. Seriously.
He's genuinely not even looking at us anymore. He's just writing stuff down on the notepad.
You know, like something ticks something off in you that inspires hugely, and you just, because that's the human condition.
I'm so glad. That's actually one of the things I genuinely miss. I used to, in the pre-COVID days, I did a lot of masterclasses, and one of them is just called "Get the Damn Book Written," and it's literally debunking the reasons people stall about finishing their books. And I love it because there's usually about 20 people in those classes. And I usually get a moment where someone goes, "Oh yeah, that's me."
That's me.
And I just miss that, like we've just had that fun moment of going, "Oh, that works for me. I understand what you're saying."
Yeah.
But I think that is it. What we have been given language, yet we choose to lie. That's what the book's about. There we go. I'm sure you're out of time.
No.
We are.
I mean, that's just amazing. Very quickly, can we just ask, what are you reading at the minute, Adele? We always like to ask what our guests are reading.
Yes. Well, I have just. I'm just now, why have I got language and why do I choose to lie?
Are you about to porky pie, Adele?
One actually works better. The one before the one out works better for our podcast, and it's much better to talk about. And then the other one really exposes something about me. I'll give you them both. So okay. I quite often read in advance because I've got a column in a magazine where I pick 6 books, a national magazine, and I pick 6 called Platinum, and I pick 6 books for my book club a month.
Oh, wicked.
So I am always reading in advance. So at the moment I'm reading Lisa Jewell's book, which was The Day She Disappeared, and that was phenomenal. I mean, I've known Lisa all her writing career. We've been friends all the way along, so a bias. But even with that bias, this is her best book yet, and I'm really enjoying it. I really enjoyed it. And then I'm reading a completely different book called Woman of a Certain Rage.
Nice. Nice.
Great one.
It's a comedy, and I think we can all understand where I went, oh, I think that might be giving away a little bit.
No, it's a blinder.
I already said I'm 52, so we all realize I am a woman of a certain rage. And I just read this really funny book about how and it is a comedy, but I was thinking honestly, talk about using this particular rage for an excuse for so many murders.
Yeah, no. I mean, the thing is that you can't. If I'm not far behind you. I'm pushing 50. Don't
we all look good on it though?
Yeah, no, don't. I mean, Jesus, thank you, lockdown. Thank you, Zoom, and the dark lighting. I think the interesting thing is if you've lived with somebody going through the certain rage, you're just like, this is the best fucking excuse for murdering anyone everywhere.
Both ways.
Yeah, no, I'd happily,
I'd take more notes. I think time for more notes. Possibly, I think.
You're a long way off it, Rob. You don't need to.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right, Pet.
You're all out by the time you need to worry about this.
It's all right, Pet. You've still got to get through the sleepovers and the other.
No, I got a daughter on the cusp of the teenage years, so I've got my own things to navigate at the moment.
Yeah.
Actually, that is the fun of families, isn't it? Because you
It is,
do
yeah.
have to navigate something or other.
Oh,
all the
yeah.
time,
There's always a compromise. That
is
is
a compromise.
Yes.
the joy of family is negotiation and compromise.
Yes. Usually ends with me in the doghouse outside, by the way. So.
Oh.
No, I'm not. Apparently, I'm not a very cool dad, Adele. So
I think you're wrong.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna tell
Just
them.
tell them they're wrong.
I'm gonna tell them now. You've instilled confidence in me.
Wrong.
The problem is your friends are cooler. So
yes, this is it. I mean, have you seen who I'm hanging out with tonight? Sean, what are you reading, man?
I'm still reading submissions. I'm always monumentally reading submissions.
I know. I do feel bad asking that question because I know you don't get to read as much for pleasure.
I don't get to read for pleasure. I recently reread lovely Sarah Moorhead, Essie Moorhead's Witness X, just because I needed to pay homage to a few things in my own work.
Nice. That's
So
interesting.
I just wanted to see how she'd handled dealing with her science. And it's Witness X is an incredible book. So we've spoken to her, but I just wanted to go back and go.
Nice.
How did you deal with that?
It's nice to give another shout out to someone.
Yeah, but it's nice to reread as well when you're sitting there.
I'm reading The Shameless by Ace Atkins, and this is number 9 in the Quinn Colson series, and it's one of my favorite series, and I just really, really love it. Ace can do no wrong for me. It's one of those calendar books. He's got another one coming that's and it's on pre-order for months and months in advance. So it's just so great. But he's got such it's that rich tableau of characters and location that he puts together in Tibuhaar County. Which I just really, really enjoy. But that's a pleasure read, that one. I've got some other stuff I'm reading for everything is reading for pleasure, but it's more, I like to be on the ball with stuff, the stuff that's coming out. Yeah. There's guests, but there's also there's blurbs. I feel so lucky, when a book gets popped through the door, and it's like a gift. Honestly, the kid in me who has always loved books just cannot get over I get sent books. It's still never gets tiring. Wow.
We got Claire McIntosh's Hostage through the door this week. I've
read it.
Have you? Is it?
I haven't yet because it only arrived 2 days ago.
Yeah, really? Is it good?
It is good.
It's been brilliant to have you with us today, Adele. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I've loved every minute. Thank you for asking me.
No, it's been so much fun. Both of you is out now, everyone. It's absolutely superb, and I don't think anyone deconstructs the human condition and puts people through the the ringer, like Adele. Adele, really inspired tonight. I'm gonna get a T-shirt made up with that about lies and language. That's really inspired me.
Absolute joy to be on the podcast, and call me again next year.
Thanks so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Absolutely delightful. We'll see you at some point in real life.
Take care. Bye. Bye.